Number 9 is asking us for the solution. And as we discussed before, solution is the same as what keywords? X-intercepts, roots, and zeros. So that means that you could do plug and chug with each answer choice and for x. And since it's a rational equation, which means it's in the form of a fraction, I would do each part separate. So I will plug in on the numerator over here, then simplify that answer, get the denominator answer, and divide the two. And then I'll plug in this numerator, this denominator, and then divide the two. So I'm going to show you in this case how to work it out by hand. Now, even though it's an equation, you could do second trace 5. However, with rational functions and equations, you end up having asymptotes, which means that you're going to have other lines in the graph. And so, therefore, it could be a little bit more challenging to find that intersection because you're going to have to get it to a certain point where the asymptote does not come into play. But solving it by hand is not bad at all as well. So for a rational equation, you basically, as before, want your denominators to be the same. So since this denominator has x minus 1 on the left side, I want it to be x minus 1 on the right side. Since this denominator has 4x plus 5 on the right side, I want 4x plus 5 on the left side. So I'm going to multiply x minus 1, top and bottom, numerator and denominator, x minus 1, x minus 1. And then I'm going to do the same on the left side for x plus 5 and 4x plus 5. Since my denominators are now the same, in order for the expression and the equation to be the same on both sides, I now know that my numerators also have to be equal. So I'm just going to look at my numerators moving forward. So that would give me 4x plus 5 times 2x minus 3 equals 8x plus 1 times x minus 1. So you can do distribute or box, either way. But you should get as your final answer 8x squared plus 10x minus 12x minus 15. On the right side, you should get 8x squared minus 8x plus x minus 1. Then you need to simplify. So you should get 8x squared. Combine your like terms, and you should get minus 2x minus 15 equals 8x squared minus 7x minus 1. And so since there's an 8x squared on the left side and an 8x squared on the right side, they're going to be equal. So even if I subtract 8, the positive 8 is also going to combine with the negative 8 to give you 0. So I can simplify those out to 0 because they're exactly the same on both sides. And I always try to get a positive x because that saves me an extra step. So I'm going to move 7x over to the left side. And that should give me 5x. And of course, if I want my variables on the left, that means the constants have to be on the right. So I'm going to move 15 over, and that gives me 14. So x equals 14 divided by 5, which is letter D. Now, anytime you're dealing with, in particular, rational or radical equations, you always want to check because sometimes you can get an answer, but if you plug it back in, it might not work. It might give you a point of discontinuity, a hole, an asymptote, or it might not just work at all. So then therefore your final answer would be no solution if that does happen. So I would always recommend that you check your answer. So if I check my answer, it would be similar to plugging and chugging as I mentioned before. So I'm going to have 2 times 14 over 5 minus 3 all over 14 over 5 minus 1 equals 8 times 14 over 5 plus 1 all over 4 times 14 over 5 plus 5. And like I said, I would go on and simplify each fraction first. So then that would give you, I'll check in this box here, 13 over 5 divided by 9 over 5 equals 117 over 5 divided by 81 over 5. And when you simplify the left, you get 13 over 9. When you divide and simplify the right, you get 13 over 9, which means we get the same answer, and so that answer is correct. And number 10, you're also looking at rational functions, but you are dividing. So remember that when you divide fractions, that is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to go on and do that part first so I don't forget it moving forward in my problem. So that's going to give me x plus 7 over x squared plus 4x minus 21 times x squared plus 8x plus 15 all over x plus 5. So the only parts that you can factor are the trinomials, which we can do with the x factor. X plus 7 and x plus 5 are already simplified for us. So if we factor it, it's going to give us x plus 7. Two numbers that multiply to negative 21, but then add to positive 4. So then that's going to give us x plus 7 times x minus 3. And then here, two numbers that multiply to 15 but add up to 8 should give you x plus 5 and x plus 3 all over x plus 5. So remember that when we're simplifying rational expressions, you want to simplify the like factors. Remember, factors is x plus or minus a number. And then simplify anything that's not a factor. So here I have, let's see, x plus 7 in the numerator, x plus 7 in the denominator, x plus 5 in the numerator, x plus 5 in the denominator. Remember that when you are matching up factors, you can only match 1 in the numerator to 1 in the denominator. If you have more than 1 in either situation, remember you can only do 1 at a time. So I'm going to simplify x plus 7 and x plus 7 to 1, x plus 5 and x plus 5 to 1. So then that leaves me with x plus 3 over x minus 3, which would be letter A.